So first things first, what we've spent a little bit of time talking about is nerves. And I alluded to it, how do we not be nervous? And so I think that the first, that's like that great point. And I don't know if there is an answer. How do we deal with nerves? How, you know, we've spoken a little bit about already, this is our third class. We've already spoken a little bit about that. And the reality is, each of you probably has a few things you do. When you've got to talk to your mom about something you did that you shouldn't have done, when you've broken something, when you've let people down, when you haven't done whatever it is, when we've all been there. Mom said, go do this. You didn't do it. Now you got to tell her you didn't do it. She knows you didn't do it, but you got to go tell her. She's going to yell. She's going to get angry, or she's not going to yell. She's just going to make you feel so guilty. How do you get yourself ready to go and talk to that mom, that brother, that cousin, that sister, that whoever, your best friend? How do you get yourself ready when you have to go and deal with it? That's the same stuff that you do before you public speak. So you already have some of these skills. And when you break it down, because the first response that people often say is, well, I don't know. I don't do anything. I don't do that. It's like, no, we all do stuff. And when you actually slow the whole process down, you think about it, it's like, okay, well, I start running through what I'm going to say in my head. I might pace a little bit. You're walking around, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? Well, what's the pacing doing as you're walking? It's starting to relax your body. And you're starting to think, what am I going to say? So even you're unconsciously doing something, you're getting your body moving. It's helping to get your mind thinking about things. You start then you're talking to yourself a little bit. How often do we talk to ourselves? Lots. What does that do? It starts to calm us a little bit. Again, it starts to help us focus things. So we're starting to play with these tools that you're also going to do before you public speak. But you might, in the case of what we're doing in our class, you might be thinking about, okay, how am I going to do my intro? You might be working through the speech as you're walking through the hallways. The biggest challenge when we start talking about nerves, the biggest challenge, as I've said before and before and before, is you. You and I are our biggest problems. It's you and me. And for me, it's me. For you, it's you. The thing that gets in the way of you just doing anything and saying, oh, I can do that, is you saying in your mind, oh, no, I can't do that. No, it's not possible. Oh, no. Oh, I'm going to get embarrassed. Oh, I'm going to sound this. Oh, I'm not prepared. Oh, I'm not. We do that all our times in our heads. And so we do that because, well, maybe we're not prepared. And that's probably the biggest issue. That's number 3, is we're talking a little bit about how we get ourselves physically relaxed. And then how do we get ourselves mentally relaxed so that we can focus on the job at hand. And hello. And in your case, that job in hand is going to be a maximum 4-minute speech. So that's where you're going to get. So your job is to get yourself focused enough so that you can get to the delivery of that content in a way that's going to make people interested and stop and listen. And they're going to go, oh, that's fun. And they're going to engage. So you got to get yourself a little bit relaxed. But in your mind, you're constantly saying, oh, I can't do it. Oh, what happened? Oh dear, where'd they go? In your mind, you're going to be saying, I wonder where it went. That's weird. They're going to be saying, that's really weird. That ends up being our. Is it this that controls it? I don't know. Oh, I heard something. No. It's back. It's not coming back. So maybe. All right. Well, we'll sort it out in a second. Unless anyone knows why it's not working. The big thing to think about. Oh well. Small problem that. Okay, we'll figure it out. This is also a good thing when you're doing presentations. Things are going to fail on you. And how you deal with the failure of those things influences the rest of your talk. And that's why I constantly say you need to be prepared, because when technology fails on you, and this is not a good situation to be in at the moment. Yeah, I unplugged that. That didn't work. I don't know what this does. Maybe point it this way, point it this way, point it this way, point it this way, point it this way. No, this controller. Oh well. Oh dear, we'll sort it out after. It turns on somewhere. Anyway, the big issue becomes, I don't even remember where I was. You see, I've lost my spot. I need my notes. So it failed when well, the one side of it is once we go from sorting out our heads, and you've got this whole thing, when you get to that very end in the delivery, if you haven't managed to get your head in place and be able to follow the plan, no matter how much you do what you're doing, no matter how much time you spend thinking I can do it, no matter how you think you know your product, if you haven't worked with what you want to say, if you haven't played with that delivery, you're doomed. So what I'm saying is, think about the last time you did a presentation in front of a class. Think about how it went. Maybe it went really well. Maybe it went okay. How much time did you spend actually practicing the presentation out loud with your PowerPoint in the place or in a place where you're going to go and do it? This becomes the challenge. If you don't really, truly 100% know your product, know what you're going to say, but you kind of know it, but you don't 100% know it, you're always going to be really nervous. Because, well, what if it goes wrong? What if I can't deliver it? What if I can't say it? And that's why we're going to spend a whole bunch of time getting you just to play with what it is that you're trying to say and what it is that you're trying to put together. And once we get that all sorted out, I think you're going to do amazing. So, where does this leave us? First of all, I want you to think just for a second about 2 things you do to get yourself relaxed. I want you to spend 1 minute thinking about 2 things you do to get yourself relaxed. And then we want to share it with class really quickly. So just think of 2 things. Take 1 minute. Just think, okay, what do I do to get myself relaxed? Do I walk around? Do I take deep breaths? Do I do some yoga? Yeah.
Simplify the situation.
Well, breathe in and out.
Yeah.
And what are you thinking in your head?
I don't know, I just calm myself down and then think that it's not fine, it's going.
Okay, that's good.
And then I try and simplify the situation.
Oh, okay. Anyone else do that? Does anyone else do that? Just think in their head, take a deep breath, think. You do that.
Yeah, I take a deep breath and then think if I was wrong, what the worst can happen. Like I'm gonna correct myself and that's
I
it.
can still see her. Yeah. Oh, I still have the Zoom thing clicked up, but the screens went off. That's good. That's very good. Shake your hands. Like this? That's good, except we don't want to do it when we're talking. But yeah, and this, everyone, in fact, everyone do this right now, wherever you are, just shake your hands, just like this. Just like this. Yeah, yeah. Stand up, stand up, stand up where you are. No, you got to stand up, really, really, really. And ladies, stand up. Stand up in your space. And I just want you to shake your hands and shoulders, just like, and move away from your drink there. Just shake them. Now put them down and shake them. Down. Now put them up and shake them. Just shake, 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 shake. Now here. Keep going, keep going, keep shaking. Shake. Now move your shoulders like this. Shake, 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 shake. Shoulders, shoulders, shoulders. And fingers. Like you're rubbery. Got to move them fast. Okay, now stop. How's that feel? A little bit. Now, how many of you can sit down? Sit down, please. How many of you crack your knuckles? This motion of shaking is doing the same thing that knuckle cracking does. Releases the tension in your joints. And then when you stop, it's like, okay, I'm a little bit more relaxed. And it starts to have that effect on your whole body. Good, good, good. What else? Oh, that's good. Yeah. And I think it's always important to organize, even in a class, if you're going to ask a question, organize your words. Get an idea. What do you want to say? That's when you're going to do your speeches, they're 4 minutes long. The maximum length is 4 minutes. You don't need your written speech in front of you for 4 minutes. A 4-minute speech in front of you in written word form. So if you decided, oh, I'm really nervous. Can I put my speech in front of me? If you have a written speech in front of you, you will read it. That's not a good speech. That means you don't know your speech. Yep. Oh yeah, if you can put your bullet points on a little thing that you can have, what you don't want to be doing is reading it. And so it's always good to have that kind of stuff, but you're only doing a 4-minute speech. So in my mind, and in so many others' minds, if you don't know your speech, then you're going to have to keep referring to stuff. If you're constantly referring to it, you need to practice more. But have it because you might need it. It adds another dimension to a speech because you got to be careful what you do with things. But you want to know your speech to the point that you don't need those things, but have them because you might need it. Yeah. Got to speak loud.
Yeah, I wanted to say that for me, having the sticky notes quantity makes me more confused.
It can. I mean, look, I always have my speaking notes. If I'm doing a speech, I will have the full speech that I've kind of a version of it at least in my pocket. So I'll have it in one of my pockets. I'll have speaking notes, just the bullet points, in another pocket in case I need them. But if I know my speech, it's just keeping on getting to those things. Yep.
I usually have like my main points or let's say the 3 main things I want to talk about on a piece of post-it note.
Yeah.
Sometimes I have a tendency to get carried away and
Yeah.
I talk too much.
Yeah.
So when I have like a note in front of me, I can be like, okay,
Yeah.
I have this, next this, next this.
That's excellent. So your goal is to get to the point where you don't need the note. So you've practiced it so that it's you've got that carried away, but you're also going to keep your phone, your clock somewhere in front of you. So if I was doing a speech here, if you were doing it, I would just put my phone like that with the time on so I can see it. I say, okay, it's my turn. Go. And I'd watch the clock. So as I'm doing my speech, because I'd know the timing, so I can say, your goal is to get to it so that you can control it throughout the whole thing. You're going to get there. Yes. Yeah.
For this course, are we going to have to present like using presentations? Or
Uh-huh.
are you going to like, speak fluently about
Uh-huh. Both.
No, without the presentation or
With the presentation. But maybe we don't, what do you mean? Hold on. So
are we going to have to, like if you were to give us a topic to talk about?
Yeah.
Are we going to have to talk about it without the use of the presentation, or are you going to have like
the first 2 speeches, no physical PowerPoints or things or whatever. And the last 2, you can use props and PowerPoints or whatever. But there's a very specific way I'm going to want you to use them. And so my theory, like so many other theories, is people who the standard ZU presentation, we're not striving for that. That's not the good presentation, honestly. They do their job, but that's not, oh, maybe it's this thing that's the problem. Maybe this is what, no. That's not our best presentation. The one where we put up the PowerPoint with, a whole bunch of sentences on and we read them, and that's not a good presentation. It's the way we do them. It's the way we've seen them done over and over and over again. But honestly, that is not a good presentation, especially if someone puts up a PowerPoint slide and then proceeds to read or say all of the words on the slide. That's like a bad use of resources, because the first thing that it says, and I have a big problem with that, whether it's an administrator or a professor who puts up their slides and then reads them. I can read. So by you putting up the slides and reading it to me, it's suggesting I can't read. You could put up the slides with a whole bunch of words and say something else. Now you've got double the time because you've got me reading the stuff and you're telling me about it. But the real issue is those standard presentations that fill up the screens. Why are we doing it like that anyway? If you really want to give people a whole bunch of words like that, print it off and give it to them as a handout. And just give it to them. and say, okay, well, here's all the basic core points I'm going to give you in my speech. I'm going to put some piece on the side so you can add some notes. Here's all the key terms. Here's all the stuff. So now they've got all that stuff on your slides. Now you can actually do some fun stuff to present that very small amount of content in a way that's going to engage your audience. So we're going to talk about how to do more effective presentations in that way as well. The caveat to all this, that little bit, is if a professor wants you to do that and give them that presentation that's full of all those words, then give it to them. If they don't tell you that's how you have to do the presentation, then give them the presentation that is the better presentation. But you always got to give the presentation that's going to get you the mark. But the majority of the times, especially in my classes, I'll do a thing with students and I'll say, you have to do a 10-minute presentation on this topic. If I do group presentations, I never tell them how they have to do it. I just tell them what I want them to present on. But I don't tell them how they have to do the presentation. I give them no guidance. I say it has to be 10 minutes long, has to be in a group, everyone has to participate, and you have to have visuals. But I don't tell them how I want any of it. And I tend to get the standard ZU stuff, which is not what I want. I want something that's going to engage the audience, which is what I'm going to teach you in this class and what we're going to talk about and what we're going to be seeing over and over. Oh, Sarah Jones. You watched, did anyone not? It's okay, you can admit you didn't watch the Sarah Jones video because you'll watch it later. But if you didn't watch it, hopefully I can get it to work here. I'm not quite sure why it's not working. If you didn't watch it, you want to watch it. First of all, there's no PowerPoint in that presentation. Now, it's the type of presentation it is anyway, but there's no PowerPoint in it because you don't always need to have visuals unless you really need them. And so it's being able to say, okay, what do I really need to do? And so that's how we're going to play with it. Does that answer your question a little bit? So we'll have some fun.
Is this a good idea if we were to present, for example, the use of images, and
Yeah.
then we speak more about
That would be the way I would do it.
I feel like that's the way
That's the way I would do it. I think that's the ultimate way. And I think that's where people go wrong. So even if you're doing a class, let's say you're taking a macroeconomics class and you've got to now present the long range Kondratiev curve, which is a spectacular curve. If you don't know about the long range Kondratiev curve, I love economics. It's great. So the long range Kondratiev curve works like this, but it works over a span of 65 years. And it talks about and then of course there's on this thing, there's some ebbs and flows, but it talks about finances, and it talks about depressions and success in societies, when we have our troughs, and the long range Kondratiev curve will actually show that typically we go 65 years between kind of a depression, a reduced time of income earning, and a very successful boom period with lots in between. But if you look at a 65-year span, you'll see it tends to go like this. Anyway, you could, if I was doing that as a presentation, that might be all I need to actually put up on the board, is a curve that shows what it looks like. I might get a little bit nicer, but I don't need to have a whole bunch of numbers on it. I could just talk about it. But people want to know, what does it look like? And then ultimately I could give a handout that shows what that curve looks like in real form. But as I'm talking about it, I don't need to have all that things. But if I was doing the standard kind of lecture that we tend to see, I would then have some dates here and things, and I wouldn't be able to read them, and it would be very small, and there'd be things, and you'd be squinting to try and look at it, and that's just not a good presentation. It's done, it's okay, but really it's not a presentation that you're going to be proud of. Over and over. Note to self to bring my whiteboard eraser. Do you see one over here? No. So you've heard me say this over and over, plan. And I'm going to remind you of this throughout the course. The basic plan, and you've already seen it once, and we'll see it again, we'll keep talking about it. The basic plan of all your speeches is the same. In fact, any presentation that you really do follows the same plan. Even if they're short, you kind of want to think in chunks. So the basic plan is that 5-part plan where you have an introduction, you have a conclusion, and you have 3 points in the middle. every speech you really want to do, you want to follow that 3-point plan. Remember, we talked about that? The only reason you're following that 3-point plan is because it tends to be how a narrative typically works in everything that you watch on TV, beginning, middle, end. And the more you follow that narrative form with a nice introduction and then a nice conclusion, it follows the way movies work, TV works, stuff that's successful on iTunes works, on YouTube. When you think of it, that standard linear form of narrative has a start and an end, and usually there's something in the middle that needs to be fixed. And that's all your speeches are essentially doing, is following this kind of plan. And if you start organizing your speeches, all of the presentations you ever do with an introduction and a conclusion and a good 3 points in the middle that are developing something, and you know that you've got to get from point 1 to point 2 to point 3 and then a conclusion, and those 3 points in the middle are developing whatever it is that you're doing. If you do that all the time, with every topic that you do, with every presentation that you do, whether it's 4 minutes or 40 minutes, if you do it all the time, you start to become a little bit more relaxed because you're organizing your content the same way all the time. It's going to be different content, but you know the plan, and you know how you're going to start, and you know that there's going to be an end. And so you know it's like, oh yeah, I got to talk for 40 minutes. Yeah, but you have to have an introduction and conclusion, and you have to have 3 parts. And these 3 parts have examples or stories. And you link them. So we get from one to the other. So you might be, today I'm going to talk about me. I'm going to talk about the fact that I've been here for 22 years. So I might break up my time, the first 5 years, second part 7 years, and the third part, the last 5 years. That could be a logical way to do it. And then you just say, well, so after my first 5 years, I really learned a lot. And that could lead me into the second thing. And and then I might go from my second part, and so I talk about the next 5 years, and I say, so at this point, you might think that there's nothing left to learn. Then I pause and said, COVID. And then I get into the last bit. So I've transitioned in. And so then I would get to my conclusion. And then I've just think about COVID. So even within the COVID section, I might have a couple of examples of things that I've learned in the last 20 years that fit into that time frame. So I've talked one area. I get to the end of my third point. I've talked about something that I've learned. Gotta turn off the email. Talk about something I learned. And then I got to get to my conclusion. Well, every speech I ever do has an introduction, has a conclusion. And I know after I get to those points, following my time, and that's the other thing. If you organize your speeches always the same way, introduction, conclusion, 3 points in the middle, with potential of anecdotes, stories, examples, you now have time to work with. So when someone says to you, you got to do a 10-minute presentation. Super, 1 minute for the intro, 1 minute for the conclusion. That's 8 minutes for the middle. So now I know how much do I have to talk about? How long do I have? Well, you have the time because you can now build it yourself and work on those bits. And when you realize is you can't talk about too much. You can't talk about that many things. You've got to now pick and choose and really narrow it down to what's the most important. So again, this helps you in the planning process of putting together any speech, because now suddenly you've got some time. So this pattern, introduction, conclusion, 3 points in the middle, again, allows you to start to get to where you want to be. And the beauty is you always know then that you've got to conclude. And I think that's probably another really, really important point. Every presentation, no matter how long it is that you're doing, needs a conclusion. We're used to this is the way we present. We're in a very learning, testing, evaluating environment. And when we do these presentations in classes, what are professors trying to get you to do? What's the answer? It's almost like a test environment when we do presentations. So we're trying to be clever. We're trying to show that we know something. We're trying to indicate that we have knowledge. But the reality is, in most of the presentations we do in our lives, we're trying to persuade people about something. We're trying to inform them about something. We're trying to give them some information. We're not trying to test them. We're not trying to quiz them. We're trying to give them the opportunity to think about something. And if we start thinking about our presentations in that way, and we start thinking about them in terms of, okay, I want to present this material so that this person is going to think about it, act on it, listen to it, do something with it. And I'm going to talk to them about what they should do and why they should do and how they should do it. And then I'm going to remind them that I told them that and remind them what I want them to do with it. You win. And instead of trying to be very complicated in this academic way, we need to think more about how do we actually speak to our audiences, knowing that part of it they're not going to listen to. They're going to doze off. They're going to forget. They're going to get interrupted. They're going to be distracted. And that's where the conclusion becomes so important. So important. Because the conclusion, you're not repeating everything you've said, but you're giving them the highlights and you're telling them, so what if you've just now spoken for 4 minutes to me? What am I supposed to do with this? Why is this important? Your conclusion's telling them that. So what did we learn here? What do I want you to do? You're telling them, we've learned this, we've learned that, we've learned that. And bullet point, we've learned this, we've learned that, we've learned this. I don't have to go back and tell you all that because I already did that. I'm now reinforcing it. Now it's your turn. Go out and make a change. Boom, you're done. People give you a big round of applause. And they're happy because you've told them, okay, yeah, you reminded me what we said. Now I get the connection. And this is what I want you to do with it. And you've done it in a way that you're not lecturing to your audience. You're talking with them. Somewhere along the line, we get this feeling that we have to, when we get up and talk, today, that's a different kind of, there's a time when you got to get behind a podium and ladies and gentlemen, today, there's that day. But 99% of our presentations, if you talk like an actual you and bring that material to them, slow down a little bit, pause a little bit, breathe a little bit, connect with them, have some emotion, that's going to work. It doesn't mean that it's any less important. It's just the sound of it is you. So all of that stuff starts to come together and starts to work really well. This 5-part plan, again, what makes the conclusion really interesting, just like the introduction, is, as I said before, I guarantee you, I've had it happen to me many times. I'm partway into my 3rd point and I realize I'm not going to finish. I'm looking at the clock. I'm presenting. I'm doing a thing. In fact, I remember doing one TEDx Dubai years ago. I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, there's no way. I'm talking away. I'm doing my thing. I'm into a story. And then I look at the clock and it's like, whoa, I've got no time. So the conclusion is also that great way to just kind of bring it all together. So it was just kind of like, okay, I ended the sentence, took a breath, got into the conclusion. And so this 5-point plan truly does work. It really works to bring it all together. And what I'm going to show you throughout the course, Sarah Jones is not that speech, but many of them follow this type of pattern, as well as what I'm going to be showing you with some of these videos that I'm going to use is what are decent PowerPoints? What are decent visuals? What work? I'm going to give you those examples. And honestly, if you're in a class doing a presentation and the professor hasn't expressly told you how your presentation has to look, they haven't 100% said, I want the PowerPoints to look like this. This is what I want on those PowerPoints. If they haven't done that, you then have license to present better. And my standard spiel on that is, if and where you can, give a handout. Professors love handouts. If you give the class a handout of all the key points, organized, easy to read, that match the format of your talk and the format of your presentation, you win. And if you're giving a handout, maybe a 1-pager is nice, always always use the back of the paper for something. Because think about it. Someone gives you a handout, I give you a piece of paper, what's the first thing? You're going to pick it up, and then what are you going to do? Look at the back. Because often you'll get one side. Well, this is wasted real estate in a presentation. Could have your socials on it, could have the key things, could have a QR code that's going to take you to your presentation. We love QR codes now, right? Everything's a QR code. Menus are QR codes. So maybe you've got your QR code sitting in a Dropbox folder, QR code to the link to your Dropbox folder to your presentation on the back of the page. You win. Unless the professor has given you express instructions on how they want it, you get the opportunity to do it the way it can be done. And I relish in those opportunities personally. I think it's tough though, because our mind's telling us, no, I can't do that, can't do that. But you can, and some of you will. I hope you will. And this is the other bad thing. I hate to say it. I'm going to ruin your life, because from now on, you're going to start thinking how to do better presentations. It's not like some courses where you just jettison everything you've learned. Everything you've learned, you take with you when you leave. And you start using it in other classes, and you start using it in your other activities. So this is good and bad. The good side is you're going to become better presenters. The even better side is, by being a better presenter, you can help people be better presenters. Nothing I'm sharing with you is a secret, but people don't think about it. And so you, by taking this course, getting much better at presenting and thinking about things yourself, you're going to be in an excellent position to help other people become better presenters. What do I get out of this course? I constantly become better at my own skill by listening to you and talking to you about, okay, this is what you did. This is that little thing. Try doing this. Try slowing down. Try speaking with a little bit more emotion. Try getting a more flowing bit to your voice, as opposed to talking like this as you're presenting what you're doing. Try and have a more lyrical feel. So by teaching a course like this with you, I simply get better every time at my own presentation skills. Not using the ums and the ahs. Did I use any yet? I used 2. Did you catch them? There's 2. It kills me every time I hear them, but it's work. I have to work just like you not to do them.